What's up, my bookaholics? We are live today for the book club. Yes, we are going to be doing Rita Marley's book, No Woman, No Cry. We're doing chapter 6 through 10 today. Hey, Sean.
Hello, how's it going?
Girl, it is not going good. Do you hear me? I'm so upset.
Why you upset?
I'm upset with this whole Facebook, whole scenario here. And let me share the group to share the page that we're live on to the the group because for some strange reason it would not let me connect to the group. Ain't that crazy? And was sitting up here for a whole half an hour trying to get it connected so that I could go live in both groups, and it's not
Oh,
allowing me. So I did post the link in the group that they could go live with us, and I also posted the link. So you guys, this is supposed to be an open discussion type of thing. Okay, so if you have not um been doing your due diligence and reading the book and stuff, then you can't come up on the panel and discuss something you haven't read. So if you are one of the ones who have read the book and would like to discuss it with us while we're live, then please do so. That's why we're here. I am going to drop the link in the comment section here so that you can join us as well.
yes, come on up, beautiful people. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And then also let me make an announcement too on the Curbsters group that the Bookaholics page and group is live. Okay. Yes. So how did you think what did you think about the next few chapters, 6 through 10, Sean?
I enjoyed them. I think they really picked up. I mean, the first five chapters almost was Rita laying the foundation for her life and her and Bob's relationship. And then in 6 through 10 we picked up and we got a glimpse into her and Bob's life and things like that. So it was interesting to me.
Oh yeah. It did. It did pick up a lot for me in the beginning. Remember when we first started reading the book, I was like, this is a little slow. It's a little slow for me.
Yeah.
A little slow for me. And um I definitely was not feeling it at first. But when you
Right.
said that it got good, after what chapter was it, 3? When you got past 3, it got good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Well, that gave me the incentive to keep on going because
Yeah, it picked up. Just like any other book, they have to lay their foundation down. I think that's what she was doing. So, you know, her and she definitely led an interesting life, I will say.
okay, yeah, she did. Look, everybody is coming in. I want to thank you, you all for coming in. I see my mama then came in on Loving My Teas by Six page instead of her page.
Hey,
Hi,
Mama.
mama. Because I was going to
How
say,
you
wait, but who
doing?
did got a hold to the business page? Wait a minute.
Oh,
Hey,
that's
John.
Mama.
Yeah, that's mama. John is on deck too.
Hey, Jerome,
So
boo.
hey, John. Yes, hey, mama. I see you. Let's see here. Yeah, I was just telling Sean I was having some difficulties connecting to the group. I don't know what is going on, but hey. Okay. Well, let's see here. Let's get into it. I'm pulling open these pages because I always bring notes to the club. Okay. Let me
Mm-hmm.
get to chapter 6 starting off. And you guys, I do record. She said the book cover artwork is great. Yes, Jerron, that we know that you didn't read the book. The book cover art is great. Okay, okay. So let's go over the prior stuff. Well, just like the last chapter, give you the last rendition. So, at the last chapter, they had went through some trials and tribulations. Rita and Marley, they have had was it by this time, was it 4 or 5 kids by now, I believe, and they ended up losing um the record label that they were currently with. They were no longer with anymore, and they were anticipating getting signed up with the new record label. And Bob found himself stranded in London with Peter and Bunny at this time, and they weren't doing any new additional music at the time. A little or none of the materials that was recorded for the demos for Jad was released during Bob's lifetime. She was talking about that, but the market was flooded with it after he passed. They had been so inexperienced and lacking the proper guidance or preparation that they had been misled. So it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, you know, and they were trying to get to a new place and destination. Okay, does that make
Yep,
sense?
it confirmed what we knew, that these record labels is crooks and criminals, girl.
Crooks and criminals, and took them for everything, publishing and all.
Yeah.
Sad.
And
It's
that
sad.
was a damn shame they left them over there all the way in London. Didn't even, you
Left them
know,
stranded.
it's cold blooded. Damn.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, this chapter 6 starts off like this. Rita got pregnant again. And uh she moved to go and stay with Bob, her mother-in-law, Bob's mom. Okay. So she said basically, let's just read a couple of inserts, y'all, because this was just, I was like, again?
Yep, she done scurried on to the U.S. at this point, guys, in Delaware.
Girl. She said, I don't like to remember the summer of 91. It was such a low time. Of course, I was glad to see Bob when he came home. I've been lonely and worried. In those days, you couldn't pick up a phone. You had to stand by the gate and wait for the postman. Though, with 3 children to care for, so she had had 3 by then. 3 children to care for, I didn't have much time for standing and waiting. Still, whenever I wasn't working, doing something, I was back to asking myself, is this all there is? Is this what my life is going to be? What kind of future am I making for myself and my children? As soon as Bob returned, the Wailers went into Coxstone's studio. I wasn't singing background vocals for them at this time, so I had no income and nothing to do but worry. Bob wasn't earning any money either, although he was working hard on a deal that he hoped for. We were getting some small checks from Jad, which, remember, that was the old record company, and had managed to buy a little used car. But the music thing was definitely not working. Our records were not playing in America or even in Jamaica. And of course, we were still at Auntie's, which put me back into my childhood position as though I never grow up and would always be dependent. My kids now use the stool, which she got on potty train, that Papa had made for them. Because remember, the house that well, they weren't in. If they had moved out and then moved back. Okay, never mind. So, and then I discovered I was pregnant. The day I knew, I took the stool to the corner of the yard where I used to go after Auntie's spankings and sat there trying to absorb this latest uh calamity. I can't even say it. Calamity, and to figure out what to do. I was devastated. I couldn't imagine how this would affect everyone. As a strict Rastafarian, I did not use birth control or believe in abortion. It's our belief that such practices are intended to kill off the Black race. So she waited as long as she could before making the big announcement. She told herself that she was just want to be sure, but that this was just an excuse for her. Auntie's response was predictable. She stood with her hands on her hips and her nose in the air, saying, "My Lord, what is this? Again? Not another baby. I knew it was gonna happen. You can't go on like this. You've got to put a stop. You have to find a place to put your children. No more here. So basically, she was telling her, we don't have enough room, child. Stop making all these babies.
I mean, I actually agree with Auntie. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with having as many kids as you want to, but you do have to make sure you ain't living with your auntie, because Auntie done told you she's sick of the shit. No.
Right. And then, you're having all these babies, but to some degree, Bob is not there and you don't have a job. You're not fully taking care of them and you're putting all of the load on Auntie, basically. Like she's
It's too
feeding them.
much to expect somebody else to do. It really is.
Yeah, yeah. So, she ends up telling Bob, let me see if I can skip to the part where she tells Bob. Because I just knew that Bob was gonna be like, what, Rita? No, not just getting Rita. No.
Girl, now Bob is a man. They love popping these babies out.
Oh my God, I was so surprised that he was, um, so she said, she knew everything that the auntie said was true, da 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 da. Then maybe we could come up there. Okay, so she talked to Bob. Bob was happy about it. So I got in touch with Bob was happy about it, but she was telling Bob that she needed a job. So she told Bob she was pregnant and he was happy about it, but then she said, um, I don't know what I'll do, but I need to do something. I'll do nursing, housework, whatever it takes, and you can stay and I'll send money home. So her plan was to go stay with her mother-in-law in Delaware and make money and then send money home. And so he agreed to it. Basically, he was okay with that whole scenario. And she went down there and she started staying with Bob's mom and stuff. Um, she did take Ziggy with her. So her the youngest, well, the oldest. Was Ziggy the oldest? Who was the firstborn? I didn't forgot.
I think. I mean, I know she took the baby. I
She took
think.
the baby with her. So Ziggy was the baby then. She took Ziggy with her and she moved down there to Delaware and the mother-in-law watched Ziggy while she would go to work. And it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And she didn't get into the jobs that she wanted. And I think she took on like a home care job for a white lady, and she said the white lady was always accusing her of stealing, what she was, getting food and stuff from the lady because she was eating. The lady would only give her enough for one person, but she was pregnant, she was eating for two. It just was never enough. So she would steal slices of bread and stuff like that. The lady would count the bread, honey. I was like, what? She counted the bread slices. She counted like the food that she gave her like one scoop of this, one scoop of that. Girl, I was like, that was cold blooded.
She would have been mad at me because I would have got fired. I'm hungry.
You messing around
I'm
with my
about to
damn
have something to
food.
eat, ma'am. So if you want to let me go, because the way Rita described the child, she was giving that Rita the bare minimum.
She was giving her the bare minimum. I said that was cold blooded. She didn't want Rita to eat, honey, her food up, and she was making sure that Rita wasn't stealing any of her stuff. She was a maid, and the lady's name was Miss Carrington, and she would make it do what it do in order to survive. And Miss Carrington, eventually really liked Rita to some point and was offering Rita, you know, was going to be giving her higher wages or something like that. But the situation between her and Bob was just starting to deteriorate because Bob was not staying home. Like the auntie was telling her that Bob was not coming home at night sometimes. And he was, being MIA doing a lot of things. And she started to get frustrated because, like, she would write Bob every day and stuff like that. And he was just kind of like really not responding to her the way that he had been responding to her before.
Bob was out there doing whatever he wanted to do, child. That's why he was happy when Rita went
Yep.
to the U.S. When she got home, she didn't want to come back home. What you come back
Mhm.
home for?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
And then
damn,
she
Bob.
was and she was really adamant about coming back home too. You got that right, Sean, because she was missing the rest of her kids. And and then she was just starting to have a detachment issues while she was even living in Delaware with the mother-in-law. Like she was like, "No, I be missing Ziggy. I want to go back home." And stuff like that. Like she was like she worked her whole time there right up until her baby was due, working for Mrs. Carrington.
And also, she was doing something else. She was working two jobs.
Yeah,
I
she
forgot
I
what.
think she was a waitress or something like that.
But she was working.
Yeah.
And then
Let
I think the mother was charging her.
The mother was charging her to watch Ziggy. Yep, she was. So she really
Mm,
wasn't making as much money as she thought she was.
girl.
She
Oh,
had an idea that she was going to be making enough money to be able to, take care of her while she was there, save up some money and send home. But that wasn't the case because everybody had their hand in her pot. Because she had to have somebody watching the baby. The mother-in-law was giving her money for that. And I mean, she was giving the money to the mother-in-law for watching Ziggy and, you know, just a whole mess. Oh, let me read this insert because this is where things really got worse for her. So she said that she was, missing Ziggy and everything. So I said that, okay. She said, I worked right up until the time the baby was due. I had to, so that if anyone said your child is eating a lot, I could say no problem. I get my pay this, help out with that, but buy everyone a beer and we drink and be happy. But living with Sedalia, which was the mother-in-law, Sedalia Booker, was an experience. Soon after Ziggy's pneumonia, I left Miss Carrington to work days in a hospital. So that's where she ended up going. And so I was home to take care of moms at night, bathe her, oil her hair. She looked forward to that. It was my daughter-in-law thing. We would sit and watch TV, and I would be there for hours chatting, making her comfortable before we went to bed. But the time I spent with her was great. I learned a lot from moms. So I didn't mind so much that I had to wash out the tub after bathing her and other things daughter-in-law don't do anymore. And then sometimes at night, I had to scrub her kitchen floor and wax it. So that in the morning, it would be shiny when she went to make Eddie, which is Eddie was her husband, coffee and bologna sandwiches for the boys' school lunch. So she was working really hard to kind of like make up for having to be there. That's what I was, figuring out, that, she took the extra time and she still wanted to try to have a relationship with her mother-in-law too. And thank her for allowing her and Ziggy to come down there and stay while she was making money. But she then said that she was ready to go back home. And she, had ended up telling Bob that she was ready to come back home. And Bob wasn't, he was like, you need to stay down there and make more money. Like he was kind of like brushing her off about coming home. Um, but she said she chalked that up and she came back home because that's when the auntie was telling her that Bob wasn't being there that much. Now, Rita ended up catching Bob cheating towards the end of chapter 6. Girl, let me tell you something. I just had to laugh at some of the things that was going on because Rita knew, but she was passive about the whole thing. Like she would, just brush everything off that Bob was doing.
okay, bye now. Yeah,
You know,
she definitely did. I don't know what was up with that. Why she? I mean, because she knew everything that was happening. She really did.
she did, but she was very passive. So check out the last part of chapter 6. She said, I went home as soon as Stephen could sit up. I didn't know until then about the two young women Bob had been seeing while I was in Delaware. Though I had suspected one even before I left. I'd even gone to her mother to say, tell your daughter to stay away from my husband. Both of these women had become pregnant at the same time, their sons born about a month after Stephen. I was very upset at first to learn about all of this, though it's common in Jamaica. But since then, I've come to love both these boys and to think of them as my sons. I had a little money saved when I found out about the new situation. My first thought was that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. Even though I still love Bob and was glad to see him glad to see him and for the time being wanted to remain his wife. I realized I couldn't completely trust this man anymore with my life and my children. I really had to try to forget about him for a while, even if that was hard to do, and focus on the 4 children: Sharon, Sadell, Ziggy, and now Stephen. First thing I seek after getting out of Trenchtown, however, I could make that happen. It seemed crucial. I felt especially bad for Ziggy, who had been going to school in Delaware and was accustomed to a certain treatment. It was a new life in Trenchtown. I was only 25, but I felt I'd achieved a degree of knowledge and experience and wanted some respect. I had worked too hard in Delaware and felt I should use whatever I gained, not just financially, but morally. I'm going to give something to my children, I thought. These kids are too nice. I owe it all to them. And if Bob doesn't want to be a part of it, too bad. I felt as if I had something to boast about, even though I had nothing except a few American dollars that would soon be gone. Of course, Auntie said, "You crazy. What you gonna be doing? Robbie, not making one bit of money and you come back. Why you never stay in America? What you come back for? Why you following him?" She thought I should divorce him. But I thought this was not for a roster to do, not a good example. So even though I was in so much pain, I said, no, he's still my husband and I don't want to lose my husband. I asked myself, can I hold out? I knew he loved the kids as much as I did, but that he was distracted because of all the pressures. There was just too much mix up. Where there's weakness, I have to be strong, I thought. I have to be strong for the kids. Even if I'm angry as hell at Bob, I have to be strong for him. I felt I had to take the lead and that we had to try to be friends because we were partners now. We were connected forever. We were family. So that blew me back because she said that we were partners now. We
Mm.
like I said, she didn't consider, she knew he was messing up and doing all of this other stuff, but that she was taking a sidebar to everything. That she figured him as being a friend now. Even though they was married. Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess according to their religion, it made sense to me. No, of course not. But you know, I guess that was her Rastafari culture and religion would not allow her to get a divorce. So, I guess she tried to make a look the best of it by looking at Bob as a friend. And she stopped looking at him pretty much as her husband.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, he already had 2 kids outside of the marriage. All three, her included, and the other 2 women had kids around the same age. Um,
Girl, how many children did he have in his
Girl, I want to
lifetime?
say he had about damn near 20 kids.
Really?
That's what I
Oh,
want to say, because
girl, let
they
me Google.
they said that he had some that probably didn't even know they was his or something. He probably didn't even know.
Bob
That
was
was
out
the
there doing his thing,
yes, yes. Well, going into chapter 7, and chapter 7 basically was giving all of the information about how Bob was still trying to do his music thing. He ended up working out a deal with Chris. So Chris had an agreement where they were going to give him a house. You know what I'm saying? And Bob is thrilled about it. So you know, the house that they used to go to and party at, and that's where they would make music and stuff like that. That was the house that Rita didn't normally go to, right? You know,
Right.
that's where he had all the women and stuff coming over there to the house, but he would tell Rita, well, you know, we need her, she's my attorney. We need this person, she's my photographer. We need, like, it was that he always would give Rita those examples of who these women are and how they were needed for the business, right? But I guess, you know, Chris um ended up kind of like working with the whalers to try to get them this deal, you know, and then they ended up giving them the house. He said, when it all started, Bob was, of course, thrilled. He kept saying to me, listen, we have a house. As for me, I was astonished, especially by the location. Ordinarily, if you didn't have money and you weren't white or brown, you could hardly set foot in that area. Plus, a roster, even worse. Hope Road was the first time any such achievement had ever happened to a roster. To be able to flash dreadlocks and wear Rastafarian colors in a home besides the governor general's, the king's house, the home beside the prime minister, place where he has his office 2 doors from it, right in the limelight in the middle of uptown. So, you know, it was quite unheard of. And for them to be Rastafarian and getting, you know, the house and everything, that was a big deal. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, they had the house, and they started staying in the house. But that's when all of the stuff started happening with these additional women and stuff like that. One of them, who says others living there were Diane Jobson, who eventually became one of Bob's lawyers and was the sister, wait a minute, sister to Chris, to like the sister of Chris' best friend and business partner, Dickie Johnson, who was also a tenant there, and Cindy Breakspear, who later became involved with Bob. Diane and Cindy, like most of the women who hung out at Hope Road, were pretty, brown skinned, uptown, middle class characters having a fling at doing their own thing. So to them, Bob was so attractive and they were so attracted. They all wanted to go to bed with him, and he made himself available by starting to sleep there at night. So this is why he wasn't coming home now. He was saying that he was doing work up at the Hope House, and
Uh-huh.
he was
Uh-huh.
really putting in work.
Yeah. And I did look it up. It say he got 12 children by 7 different mothers.
Say, okay, 12 kids by 7 different mothers.
I mean, and
Okay,
that's what he claimed, I think.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Girl. And this is where all the juicy stuff comes in too,
Hmm.
because um she claims that they all wanted to go to bed with him and he made himself available by starting to sleep there at night. But I don't want to put in an entirely in a negative way. This is her trying to cover it up. You see how I say she was
Uh-huh.
very
Still.
passive?
Still.
Yeah. She said since the opportunity made it possible for him to create what he did, it was a real beginning because so much that he had wanted for his music was really started to happen for him by giving him this house. There was nonstop activity at 56 Hope Road, you know, and at any given time, meetings, rehearsals, interviews were going on, and some people would be exercising on the floor. The kitchen ran 24 hours a day. Soup will be cooking, and sometimes Bob or his friends, Alan Skill Cole, a soccer star, would be standing there making peanut juice, this juice, that juice, whatever. You know, Hope Road was where Bob's life seemed to open up, and he started to feel, yeah, and I was happy for him. You know what I'm saying? Like she was happy for him, but she was not included in this. And even
Mm-mm.
though Bob would say, Rita, you need to come up to the house. Come on up to the house. She didn't want to because she knew the other women were there.
Like, look at her. It's one thing to know you messing around, but I'm not gonna be sitting around chit chatting with them and whatnot. You tripping, Bob?
Yeah, flaunting them in my face. You got a lot of nerve. So look, I made another insert in a passage where it says, "Despite my misgivings, I showed up at Hope Road almost every day." But
Oh
she would
hell.
not go. Now she wouldn't go in though. So she would show up there every day just to be a part of what was happening. If one night Bob didn't come home, I'd be there the next morning asking why. And then there would be the explanation, because there were always explanations. Most of the time he'd say, it's rehearsal.
Mhm.
So it's the music keeping him away, and I say,
Mhm.
well, I can't fight that because that's your dream and that's what we're going to eat bread from. So if it takes rehearsals to get things together, just be careful. As always, I was supportive of what Bob did and never lost my confidence. I even bought him a bedroom set for Hope Road. She bought him a bedroom set for him to sleep and sleep with these women on. You know what I'm saying? For Hope
Rita,
Road.
girl,
That
you were doing
Rita
too
did.
much, girl.
But
No, ma'am, Rita.
she said he didn't want it. That's because he was doing dirt. He didn't want that. He was
Yeah.
doing dirt. He didn't want the place to feel like home, is what he told her, or to look too much like he wasn't home. Ain't that something? Girl, that took
Mm-mm.
me aback.
Rita, girl, I'm gonna say what they say. Girl, you better than me, child. You know.
Girl, better. What?
Cause no ma'am, no ham, no turkey.
Girl, yes. Well, let me see. It was another passage in here that she was starting to get into it with Esther. Do you remember the story about Esther?
Esther.
Girl, child.
I
Child.
don't.
Let me see if I can
Which
find
one
that
was
passage too.
Esther?
Girl, the one Rita had to cuss her ass out. Let me see. Okay, so it's somewhere on page 97. Hold on, because I got my notes for it. So she said, and I had to say, I've always wanted to leave Trenchtown. I don't care if Bob agrees. My children are growing bigger every day, and the life they are growing up to see is not what I wanted it to be. Because at this point, she started thinking about moving into her own place. Okay.
Yeah, she wanted to move to Bull. Well,
Yep.
that ain't where she wanted to go, but that's
Bull
when she
Bay.
get ready to
But
move to
that's what
Bull
she ended
Bay.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she wanted to move out of Auntie's house because she got tired of being, like Auntie was still treating her like a kid.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, you live with your family. Sometimes that's the way they try to treat you, child.
Yeah.
Hey, Michelle.
What up though?
What up?
So
What up? What up?
we're talking about chapter. Are we still on chapter 6? Chapter 6
Chapter
on page.
7, I thought we went
Oh,
into.
chapter 7. Page 97 is where I'm reading this excerpt out. So she said, soon after, Gabby called to say that there was a government housing scheme with concrete block houses for sale going up in Bull Bay, about 12 miles away on the south coast. And that kind of threw me out. Bull Bay, I said, it's so far. So I think it was like 2 hours or whatever from where they were in Trenchtown, from Auntie's house, right? 2 hours away. But
Yeah, it was a good little ride to get out there.
yeah, but Gabby happened to know about a project because he lived there and he described it as pleasant, easy enough to go to get to. So I said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. Now, when she went there, she was very happy about the house. She was already having ideas of, she can farm there, which is the same thing her auntie was trying to tell her. What, you finna go up to Bull Bay and you finna be a farmer, you finna grow your fruits and vegetables. Like literally, that's what she did. And she was like telling her, no, that's not what I'm gonna do, but that's what she ended up doing. And she ended up liking that life. Once she moved there, she got situated, she got the kids there. She started farming, she started building additions onto the house, like she really was doing it. And one thing about Bob that I commend with him was that he allowed her, whatever the ideas that Rita had, he was forthcoming. Like, okay, you really want to do this, it's passionate. He would give her the money, he would set her up, get the house, whatever you want to get. But he was reluctant about Bull Bay at first. He wasn't happy about it. He was saying it was too far away, but eventually he did give her the money and she set up shop. She
Girl,
turned
because child, that house, the way they described it, it was just like a concrete room,
just
no
a slab,
electricity, no
nothing.
water, no nothing. I was like, "Ooh, Rita, no."
She was gonna be starting all the way from scratch. No bathroom, no nothing.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh no, I don't know if I'd be able to do that one now." But I think at that point, this was her way of getting the hell away from Bob.
Yeah. And she was tired of the shenanigans and she was starting to focus on Rita, which, when you start to have kids, when you have a lot of kids, your focus is your kid. You take more of the focus off of you. And then
Mm-hmm.
Bob, having all these extra marital affairs and bringing these women around her. Yeah, I could see how she could get a little bit lost in the sauce. But, she was starting to try to venture off because they were still young. She was still in her 20s at this time.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then this is when she gets into the argument with Esther. Okay. Uh, and I didn't think Rita was gonna boss up though. I had to tell you because she been so passive I was just like, I didn't think that I thought she was gonna be too passive with him. Um,
Well,
she was passive with him. I thought she was gonna be passive with Rita. You know what I'm saying?
well, Rita, she was passive, but like I say, she didn't want that mess in her face. Don't bring that shit in my face, disrespecting me now.
Yeah. Well, let's check out this insert here about what she was saying when she told she told everybody in the neighborhood and stuff that they was moving to Bull Bay. We moving, honey. We getting up out of here. When we got to Hope Road, the first person we saw was Esther Anderson. Now I'm telling you about Esther. Esther was one of the chicks that Bob was dealing with, okay? And she was
Mm,
living in Hope House, 56 Hope House, right? And so she saw Esther leaning over the upstairs porch when she went up there to tell Bob that she was moving.
mm.
Uh-huh. So she said, I said, "Good morning. Is Bob there? Can I see Bob?" I knew he was up there in the room with her. What do you want? She said. Why you come here? This is Esther.
Talking to his wife,
Talking to his wife. This
ma'am.
gal is crazy, I thought, but I didn't want to get into it with her, especially in front of the children. So I just said again, is Bob there? Is Robbie there? He's sleeping, she said. Then please wake him up for me. It's important. Why don't you just leave him alone? She said. Why why you won't let the man sleep? And then I lost my cool. Who do you think you talking to? I said louder than I meant to, honey. She got loud with Esther ass.
Mm.
Why don't you stop breathing? She shouted. All you do is breathe. Bob
Oh,
needs a career, and you need to stop breathing and let him find a life. I couldn't believe it. I just stood there and said, woo. And then I thought, oh, no, 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 no. Let's get out of here. But by then, all the noise had woken Bob up anyway. And he came down and said to me, what's happening? Why you down here trying to create a scene? This is what he said to Rita. Me? I yelled, don't you talk to me like that. You have that whore up there. And I got really angry because if she didn't respect me, she should at least have respected the fact that I had my children with me. And that's my husband she's sleeping with. So I really whooped it on to her, right? She said, I really whooped it to her. And I cursed him too. And after he gave me the money I asked for, I got back in the truck and I told the driver to to drive off. So Bob was trying to make it seem like she was starting all the commotion, not knowing that that was the chick upstairs. And how dare you have your heart talk to me like that?
right, Bob. Bob, you know you was wrong as two left shoes that day.
Girl. So she said that Bob said that he would come by later, which I knew he would do, and also that he tried to chat me up. But the last I said to him was, "Fuck you, Bob. I'm very disappointed in you." I was so upset because that was the first time I've gotten into that woman thing, and I didn't intend to argue with her because if I had any argument, it was with him. which
Right.
I agree, you know what I'm saying, to some point. If the side piece is trying to get froggy, then you handle it accordingly. But your argument should always be with your husband. It shouldn't be with the side piece unless the side piece is, trying to do like she was doing with Rita. So Rita had every right to get at that hoe. And had that hoe would have been downstairs, I would have mollywopped her ass all up and down Trench Town. Okay, don't.
Oh, do you hear me? And I am against confronting women too.
Mhm.
If they messed around with my man, but Heifer, when you know I'm his wife, play your position.
Yeah, stand down. And
Right.
don't be questioning me. And what you should be doing is, if I say I need my husband, bitch, step aside. That's what you should be
Right.
doing. You know what I'm saying?
You shouldn't even say nothing.
She shouldn't have
Okay.
said no words to it. And Rita should have went up in that house. She should have went in. Like if she would have said, can you tell Bobby to come down, and the bitch would have started, I would have went up in that house, because everybody knew who Rita was. Everybody in that house knew Rita was the wife. But
Right.
Rita did not want to come in and jolly jant with everybody up in there. That's my new word. You like it, Shine? Jolly jant.
Wait a minute, where you get that one from?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely different, Fred. I don't think I've heard that one out
Girl, I'm not finna sit up here and jolly jant with none of y'all hoes.
here.
But she should have went up in there. She should have had this conversation with her husband. I would have told Bob, you need to check your hoes. When I come around, they need to stand down. They need to be, if she gonna
Yeah,
continue to allow him, and well, not allow him, but be with him while he
right.
continues to have these extramarital affairs, then you need to make sure that you keep your hoes in check,
Exactly,
or I'm
because
a checker. You know what
Esther
I'm saying?
tried to talk about why you breathe. Man, first of all, this is not breeding. We married.
Right.
Second of all, why you ain't talking to him? Because if he with you, he wouldn't be getting his wife pregnant now, would he?
He sure
Oh,
would. Cause obviously that lets you know if she getting pregnant by him. Then what that tell you, homie? He ain't just sleeping with you. He coming back home too.
girl.
Girl.
These women be crazy as shit.
Girl, and Rita, like I said, she was just so passive. I just could not. I couldn't see that for me. I know that
I
Shantae was
mean,
telling us that that's part of the Jamaican life, their culture, that they do have multiple kids and outside of the marriage and stuff like that. But I just couldn't see myself being set up like that. Like, I'm not built like that. I'm like, she was even taking the kids in and taking care of his other women's kids.
ooh, Rita, you a strong woman, child. Cause, I mean, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't want to see no kids suffer. I wouldn't necessarily take them in, but if they buy there, I give them a meal or something like that. But what Rita was doing, ooh, girl, it
Yeah,
take a lot of. I don't know. I don't know what it took, but I ain't got it apparently, cause I raw.
girl. I am just not made. I'm not built like that. So,
Yeah.
that was the pretty much the end of chapter 7. She did say that, they remain married, for that time being, because she died a widow
Yeah,
anyway. So
she,
we
yeah.
know they stayed married. But she, she just was like, their relationship with their relationships with Bob were off the record, and he kept them away from her for most of the part. She said she was careful, usually not to go anywhere that she would have to meet them, the women.
Right.
She said, I didn't see myself chasing after him. I tried to train myself to think of Bob as a good, loving brother, more so than a real husband, and made my peace with the situation.
Wait.
I asked God for help. Somebody said,
Oh,
wait.
Rita.
Yeah, she said, I asked God for help with the things I couldn't change, maybe because there were so many women that grew less and less threatening, even though some had children. The boys were born while I was in Delaware, were not the last born outside of our marriage, and I ended up taking care of many of them. Child.
Wow. Well, I don't know much about that culture of Rastafari. Michelle, do you know if divorce is even a possibility?
A divorce is a possibility. It's always a possibility. It's just not looked. I mean, and you got to keep in mind the time period that this happened. Divorce
Yeah,
was not looked at as a good thing, no matter what culture it was, and
Yeah.
right. That's
during
true.
this
That's true.
time. But in this particular culture, once you were married, generally that was it.
Mhm. And this was around the 1960s, the early 1960s. And don't forget that she had already had a kid, which was Sean upon. Um,
Right. So she had kind of had two strikes against her. So
right.
being a
Mhm.
unwed mother, having a bastard child first, and then
Mhm.
have the aesthetic of a family. The least that she wanted to the least she can do at this point, according to everyone else anyway, would be maintain a family aesthetic. Don't be having a bastard child by one person, then have all these children by another person that you want to marry, and only to end up in divorce. So
Mhm.
it's like a
Mhm.
Yeah.
double-edged sword. She was damned if she did and damned if she didn't.
Yeah.
Well, damn, that
Okay.
makes sense. Oh, well, Rita.
That was crazy, right? Just
Mm.
crazy. Uh, well, we get into chapter, oh girl, because this stuff just keeps going on. Chapter 8, we start off on chapter 8. And Rita is, getting herself situated in her new home. And then she is also trying to learn how to drive. And the reason why I had to bring this up to play is because she didn't know how to drive. And Reggie started coming around. Now, do
It's
you
her,
remember
was her boo. Hmm. Her boo.
Girl, and I'm laughing because payback is a mug, right?
Oh,
But she said she realized that she was, couldn't be fully independent if she didn't know how to drive. So Reggie, who was a guitarist with the Upsetters, had started to come around and try to help her out. He would just he was a guitar, he was in the music industry, he knew how things would go, they were pretty cool. And he would start to teach her how to drive. He would take her on errands and stuff first. But then at some point, her attitude with him started to shift and stuff. They got into a big argument. He got out, he told her, "You drive." So she ended up getting in the car and driving, but she got down to the end of the road and couldn't figure out how to get the car back home, and went to Bob. And Bob was like, "You brought the car down here, you go back." Well, she eventually did get it back, but when Bob started to come home, and and the guitar player start Reggie would be there, he started to flip out. Like, what in the hell are you doing? What's going on here? Bob started asking questions.
oh,
And
Bob.
The audacity, though, like the
Right.
audacity, like motherfucker, how dare you?
girl, he started to question everything about him. And right, what's the guitar guy Reggie was like, "Well, wait a minute, hold on," because he already knew about Bob and what Bob was doing. He had a conversation with Bob and basically told him, you need to look at what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Rita at this point was like, she was getting lonely. She ain't had nobody to talk to. It was just her and the kids all the time. And to have him be around, for conversation and apparently other things, honey, um, that was her right. He wasn't there. But girl, Bob wasn't having it. So, and then Bob had the audacity to get a home in with Esther. So during this whole chapter, she meeting Reggie kind of checking Bob. Bob then went and created a whole nother house with Esther.
Girl, just trifling. Lord.
Ain't that something? I was so like, oh my God. But girl, she just was like going through this whole thing. So she said that there was a period soon after she moved to Bull Bay when Bob stayed away for almost 2 full months, and we didn't know where he was. I had I heard he was in England, and I heard he was in Nigril during that time with Esther Anderson was touring with the Wailers, but that may have been the end of their relationship. A couple of years ago, she came to Jamaica to say she and Bob had built a house there with her money. She said, I don't know if she thought I was going to claim it now, but I want nothing to do with it. But back then, she was with Bob for a while and we couldn't find him until one day he turned up at the house in Bull Bay. So for 2 full months, he was living with Esther at the house that they had got together.
Girl.
Wow.
Mm-mm-mm.
Girl, that was just crazy. So going doing all of this stuff, she said that when Bob wasn't on the road, he would come up to Bull Bay to see the kids, even though their relationship was almost at that point where it was just Rita the friend or Rita the sister.
Mm.
Do you see how this is turning out? Like I was like, I got questions. What do you mean? You're still the wife. But
Yeah, well,
that's
he
how
was calling her sister from the beginning,
he
remember?
was. And she checked him about that in the beginning. Remember, she was like, "What do you mean, sister?" Like he didn't acknowledge it. And he told her that was the business. They don't want
Mm.
to see him, they want to make him be available or look available to his fans, which they really
Child.
do this in the music industry, I must say. You know what I'm saying? But she said sometimes he bring other women like the American Yvette Anderson, whom he wanted me to help with some publishing thing. A lot of the friends shrugged it off as his behavior, saying, "This is what happens." Others just couldn't understand why it was happening and was really disapproved. But the fact that other people sympathized with me didn't change how I decided to deal with it, which was that I saw it and wasn't going to fight it, because despite everything, all the rumors, as well as what I could see with my own eyes, most of the women still came with an explanation. This one was happening because she does my pictures, or Island sent her to do this or that, or Yvette Anderson is here because she's an American and she can have my publishing work done properly. So there was always a reason for each of them, especially when they came to Jamaica to stay with him at Hope Road, while the children and I were living in Bull Bay in what we spoke of as the family house. After the 2 months Esther Anderson program, he never stayed away too long. Sometimes, especially when he come back from a tour, he'd come home alone, or he would bring some of his friends telling them to come let me show you my house, because that was still coming home for him. Often his line was that nothing was happening at Hope Road, them just living and having fun, plenty rehearsal, a music business, but nothing, nobody thinking about planting, or oh, you come to this garden, man, you don't want to leave. Like basically he's saying the Hope House was just workhouse. That's not what he considers a home.
Right.
Interesting.
I mean, that makes sense. People always want to be out in the world doing their shit. Then they want you to be home, making it home for them, so they can come back there.
And to some degree, just to pivot back, the Reggie guy, guitarist guy,
Mm.
um, she did acknowledge, so let me just clarify that she did acknowledge that nothing went on between them, that he was just somebody that she had as a confidant, somebody that would help her, since she didn't know how to drive, take her on errands and stuff like that. This wasn't the guy that she ended up having the fling with.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So just to clarify that, she was not messing around, per her words, with Reggie, the guitarist. He was just somebody who was really nice and wanted to help her out, take her on errands because she didn't know how to drive. And then he started to teach her how to drive, and she kind of got big headed and, cussed him out. And he had to let her know, I'm doing you a favor. Because he left
Right.
her. He left her after she kind of got disrespectful with him. Like, he left her to go drive for herself, and he went walking back his own
Hmm.
way. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Right. Sure. Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that. But in this chapter as well, she did have a relationship with somebody that she was sleeping with named Owen, and they called him Tacky.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're getting into her having this sexual friend and relationship, and that's when Bob was like, "Oh hell to the no," you know what I'm saying? Just to read you an insert from this one because I made a note for it. With Bob so often absent, daily life was more difficult, although I didn't lack friends who would check on us. Besides Gabby, who had been so helpful in finding a house for me and was now my neighbor in Bull Bay, I had another good friend, Owen Stewart, a Jamaican soccer star known familiarly as Tacky. Because he knew I was married, Tacky wasn't into our friendship for sex or having a girlfriend, although eventually we did develop a relationship. So she letting you know there was sex involved. But he was one of those who felt sympathetic towards me because of the way Bob was treating me. In fact, occasion he had occasion to write the different women Bob sometimes brought to the house, and he was there to ask why. As for Bob, even before Tacky and I became involved, when he just thought we had a relationship, he became irate. He was irrational, like he was possessive over her, is what she was saying.
Mm.
So that's when Bob confronted her, and she ended up having to check him. You know, well, not her, but Tacky checked Bob and was like, "Hey, Tacky, you seeing my woman?" And blah 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 blah, carried on like a wild man. But Tacky said, "No, Bob, we can't fight. Okay, that's not what we're going to do." And then he went on to say, "I'm here because she needs help. She needs someone, and you must respect that." Tacky went very hard on him, and Bob was sorry for the accusation, and did admit it. Poor Bob. He could always see the truth, and he knew nothing was going on between Tacky and me at that time, but I got very upset. I said to Bob, "After all you're doing, you're going to accuse me? What about that bitch you got in the car?" So he
Ooh,
over here trying to check Tacky and her, and he got a broad in the vehicle sitting outside. And you in here trying to make a scene.
girl, just bold as hell.
Girl, just crazy. So, she had to check him on that. And then I guess Bob felt some kind of way because she does talk in this chapter about him raping her. um because she told him, "I'm not going to be living this lifestyle with you where you're sleeping with all of these women, and then you come home to me and you could be bringing me some kind of diseases and stuff." um they didn't have AIDS out at that time, but other venereal diseases and stuff that you could be endangering my life with
Right.
by doing this. And so she was like, "I'm not going to be the person that you come home to and sleep with no more." Like, basically. And he was like, "I know you fucking lying." He came home and took it. She called it rape.
Mm-mm. Damn, that's crazy.
Crazy as hell. And that incident ended up resulting in another pregnancy. This is what she says. "The next time Bob came back to Jamaica, I was almost raped," she said, "almost raped. Because this is where I had drawn the line. I'm not having sex with you, but he insisted, 'You're my wife. I want you.' And so we had sex, and I think that's when I got pregnant again. When I discovered I was going to have another child, my first thought was, 'My God, what is this?' Because despite trying to overlook everything and be a good sister, I was so sick of his ways. By then, he had another outside baby, a daughter born in London. But he knew that Tacky and I had a relationship. He and Tacky had a meeting. He sent for Tacky to discuss the matter, but during the meeting, and in came Bob's current girlfriend, Cindy Breakspear, saying, 'Oh, darling.' And Tacky said, 'Look at that, Bob.' So Tacky brought him down again, and Bob felt bad about that too, because he would rather she had not appeared at that time when he was trying to correct something that he was so wrong about. Child,
Whole mess.
just a whole mess of situations. Like this whole thing with Rita and Bob just was driving me crazy to keep seeing that he was um going back and forth and doing that with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for her, even though she was standing up to him to to tell him, hey, this is not right, this is not what I want, and he was still continuing to violate her.
Yeah, I mean, action speaks louder than words. Even though you can tell somebody something, but they gonna go by your actions. You staying married to him, you staying friends with him, you allowing these women to come around. It was allowed. That's why he
Yeah,
put
that's what I was gonna say. She was fake standing up to him. It wasn't.
right.
Yeah.
That's just so crazy. Oh, so crazy. I kind of felt bad for Rita because Rita was really trying to be the good wife. You know what I'm saying? Like she really was
I
trying
don't.
to.
You know something? In the '60s, I guess I probably would have felt bad, but in 2022, thinking about this bullshit, I don't feel bad. She could have fucking left and divorced and told him to go to the deepest parts of hell.
Yeah.
But you said that this was part of their culture.
I
This is
know,
what
but
they
I'm thinking, but
did.
I know, but I'm thinking with a 2022 mind.
Right.
Right.
If
Hmm.
I'm sure during that time I would feel bad for her too. You know what I mean? Because generally we didn't know no better. That is what she's doing is not normal, but it's common. So nothing about this shit is normal, but it was a very common practice. But in
Mm.
2022, fuck out of my face. Bye.
Mm.
I don't give a fuck if I had 33 of your motherfucking kids. Go to 33 different parts of hell.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Wow.
that's right, girl. 'Cause he was. I mean, the disrespect was at an all-time high. He didn't even try to hide it.
Listen, only one of the women would have had to disrespect me, and I would have whipped her ass solely because she disrespected me. You can have the motherfucker, cause I'm
Right.
gone. But let me tell you what you're not about to do. Let me explain to you why I was the wife, cause at that point it's signed, sealed, and delivered. We divorced. Fuck you, okay? But I'm gonna beat your motherfucking asshole, cause you know better. And if you don't know, you about to find the fuck out.
Ooh.
But that's
Mm.
just me. This
Yeah.
is why I wasn't
No.
born.
Don't
This
blame.
is why I was not born in the 50s and 60s. Because I would have been
Hmm.
in jail or I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I was born at the right time because shit.
Yeah, I gotta, I gotta agree with that, honey, because that stuff was crazy as hell. I always say I couldn't been born in them times because my mouth was is would have got me killed. Then having to deal with, you know, even though we still deal with it today, but segregation and all that other stuff. But to be put into a situation where that was like part of the culture and just supposed to lie down and take that. Yeah, you remember the burning bed? That probably would have been me.
Oh, damn. Mm,
That probably would have been me for real, for real.
Lord, Bob, it wouldn't have took two, sir. Mm-mm.
Girl, cause she stuck with it. Um, well, she ended up, let's get back to it, because she ended up starting to try to do her own thing, getting back into the music and everything after this whole situation, because here she is again pregnant with another baby. And she don't have no money and stuff. So she started trying to get her I3 group members back together. And they started, well, actually, it was one of the group members who were still doing some solo gigs and reached out to reached out to Rita. and was like, "Hey Rita, I want to see you guys. I want you to come to my concert that I'm having. And if you can contact the other member and stuff like that, it would be so happy for all of us to do something on stage." This is how it happened. And she was like, "Okay, yeah." She got in touch with the other member and they spoke about old times and stuff and they was reminiscing. And so she was like, "So do you want to go to the concert and stuff like that?" And at first Rita was real hesitant about doing it because she was like, they hadn't practiced or been together in so long. This was impromptu. So
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it." And they went up there that day to the concert and they killed it. Okay. The way she explained it was like they went up there, no rehearsing, no nothing, just pure what they had been doing all of the years that they had been together, and just went up there and tore the club up. And everybody at the concert was standing ovation. The word had got around town about them three, and eventually it got back to Bob.
Of
So
course.
Bob, yeah, of course. So but before it got back to Bob, they were already discussing on trying to do something uh to do like a concert or something like that, right? So let me see if I can find that insert, which was crazy because they were talking about getting something together. Once Bob had heard it, they heard about them doing it. He was like, he wanted them to come and do some stuff on some music with him because he finally got this record deal together, whatever. But they was like, "Well, yeah, let's try to do like a little concert," because she had her restaurant, Queen of Sheba, she created, and she was
Mm-hmm.
selling her fruits and vegetables and stuff in the restaurant and stuff like that. And then after that, Bob had a song out with the Wailers that was called "Catch a Fire," and that one was really a big hit for them. And that's when she re-met her old friend Minnie Phillips, who was Rasta's sister from Uptown Kingston, and who used to buy records from they little bedroom shop that they had in Trenchtown. So, they were gathering some of the Rastafarian stuff and picking up old times, and that's when they was talking about doing this little brief concert to try to get the get the get the word out about the restaurant and all the other stuff and the new records and stuff that Bob was doing. And Rita hired many hired some people that worked the door and stole all of their money. They did not get one dime of that gig that they did.
Damn. Cold blooded.
Set the whole thing up. She said that many had them robbed. Um, who were the guys who were working the door? Let me see if I can find that insert. And I thought that was so fucked up. Before the night ended, we planned a woman's organization to be called the Mada Wa Da Da. Okay, Mother of the Nation. We knew it was going to take some money. One of our immediate goals was to build a school for the roster children, since at that time in Jamaica, a child who wore dreadlocks was not admitted into the government schools. Some schools, even now, deny such children admittance. Back then, we thought we should take up that responsibility we felt we had in our on our shoulders. To raise this money, we decided to put on a concert. But then it was Minnie was 12 tribe member at the time as Bob, but I was not. Even though it was a Rasta organization, I didn't feel as if I had been part there, since I thought of it as a mixing pot and didn't see myself mixing. Minnie was rebuked by the leaders of the organization for joining with me, a non-member, to put the show together. It was against the rules. Their attitudes towards women then needed adjustment, as women were always put in the background, which is why a woman's organization was needed. And then there were the culprits in for the long run, because many trusted these heathens, honey, and had them at the gate controlling all the money, and they robbed us of every cent, every last cent. The night after the concert, we got nothing, despite the fact that the National Arena had been packed and all the food sold off. We got nothing.
Damn.
That was cold blooded. Cold
Oh,
blooded.
hey, damn. I don't even know how they could justify doing that. That's just, I don't get it.
Yeah. Even after that, they decided to, continue to do they work from the restaurant, and Bob started like, telling everybody to go to Rita's shop, go look at Rita's shop, go get something from Rita's shop, like he was doing advertising and stuff for her. And he would sometimes be suspicious of her. She said, if he couldn't find me, he go to Minnie's looking like, where's Rita? Like, because she was so busy being in the garden and at the restaurant all the time. When he would come, she would never be home. So he started suspecting she was messing around, and then would try to go and find her and do all this other stuff. Girl, he was still insecure about Tacky.
Yeah. I don't know how you being insecure with all the dirt your ass been doing.
Girl, ain't that crazy? Just crazy. Crazy. So anyway, that was the end of chapter 8. You guys, getting into chapter 9 and 10, just to give you a summarization. Bob started working with the I3, and he didn't change the name. He still said it was Bob and the Wailers. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
They ended up making some great hits. They were torn. She eventually went through, she had the baby. And she took in two of Marley's kids.
Mm.
Um,
Uh.
she took in two of the kids because I guess the women had one woman dropped the kid off at the grandma's house and was like she was out. She wasn't taking care of the
Girl.
kid, and she ended up getting a call from the grandma. And they both went up there. Rita and Marley did go up there to see the kids, and Rita suggested that we just take them in, and
Mm.
she took both of them in. Bob started seeing Cindy Breakshire. Remember, that was the lawyer, the attorney, or whatever, that lived in the Hope House. He started seeing her in this chapter as well. They had a full-blown relationship.
Yeah, she's one of his children's mother. I just
Mm-hmm.
read. So.
Yep. Here's a couple of inserts I made a note of. Then between tours, Bob began seeing Cindy regularly. Cindy had been one of Chris Blackwell's kittens, already living at Hope Road with her brother when Bob got the place. Chris had these little pussycats as at his conveniences, and she fell right into Bob's hands as his tenant. She was actually paying him rent for a while. As much as I knew about her then, she came from one of those families in Jamaica who would their daughters, rear their daughters for men who had money.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
took trips, were available for weekends. They had their lifestyle. So Bob really came in to save Cindy because he liked her, noticed that she was a nice girl, and helped to turn her life around. She was really going to be Miss Whatever. Bob gave her ambition. He was like that. This was another good thing or quality about Bob, she says. He was always real to women, always wanted to say, I see more in you than you are showing. And he said this to me too. That's what Rita said. He said that to me too. So maybe that was one of his pickup lines, honey. I also made a note that on tour, sometimes we go shopping. He would say to me, Rita, Cindy asked me to bring some things for her for the shop, and I say that's nice. But sometimes, for whatever reason, being angry at him for one thing or another, or just to test his feelings for me, I say, let me have some just to see what he do, what his reaction would be. And he say, of course, have some or all if you want, for peace, all for peace.
Oh Lord.
He said you can have whatever you want, just hush.
The end of chapter 9, Cindy becomes pregnant with Bob's child. I made a snippet of that too, you guys. That say, um, which we knew, because this is the how Bob rolled. This was his normal mo. There were not about to be a situation where a woman can be, as we now say in Jamaica, your matey, where you and another woman are dating the same man and you can maybe be friends. But after that one scene with Esther Anderson, I never again got myself into a position of arguing with a woman over him. Never. I'm a fighter, but certain things I don't fight about, though I may get sarcastic. I even began to like Cindy eventually. She would turn up at concerts in different parts of the world. And when she became pregnant, I was happy because Bob was happy. Interesting. She also goes on to say, so when I look at all these others, I was aware that the respect was always still there for me. Him himself still gave me the manners and the respect to a certain level. I didn't think I should disrupt his relationships, though sometimes the situation was painful and I couldn't understand what was going on. But I got tired of standing in the way. And as long as I was respected, given whatever I needed financially and whatever the kids needed was there, I let him be. If it was just about who he had sex with, he could have sex with the whole world if that was what he wanted. So basically, she didn't care that he was sleeping around and having all of these women and having kids with him. As long as she was taken care of financially, she was well provided for her and the kids, and she was respected to a certain level. That's mind blowing. That's something.
Yeah, it
Something,
certainly
something.
is. I'm like, oh, read a girl, read a girl, read a girl.
She was doing the most though, but she stayed true to being there for him.
Yeah.
Um, So chapter 10 is a continuation of chapter 9. Bob is still out there having one night stands. Rita is moving on with her life, taking care of her kids, and she's getting into music, right? Her and the I3 had got back together. They were doing some singing stuff, and up comes a position in which Rita is able to be a solo artist. Bob gets furious because they really want this record label is really hounding Rita to be a solo artist. They want to work with her. They're trying to get her a contract. And she at first had been blowing them off for a long time. She didn't want to, do it. And then after, she said she got to a point where, she felt like Bob was doing his thing and she had her life under control doing her thing. Why not? Why not take this opportunity to do a solo gig? So she started speaking to, the record label, and the lady who was the one who was trying to set everything up, she really liked her. Rita, she was a white lady, but Rita said that she was really really nice. Like she really looked after and wanted the best for Rita, but Bob
Right.
wasn't having it. Bob was like, he didn't give a fuck. He had put Rita out himself. Like he really went to a meeting where they were supposed to have, and Bob showed up and showed his ass and was like, he didn't want her working with her. He'll put her out himself.
Girl, Bob was something else. He wanted to be in control of every damn thing, and he wanted to keep Rita in her place, dependent upon him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. During this whole thing, after Bob kind of shut him down, Rita said that she still kept in contact with the lady. And I do remember in chapter 10 that Rita took on another one of Bob kids. So if I'm not mistaken, that's two she took in total. Um, in addition to the five she had. So that was seven kids she was taking care of. Um, but I did make some snippets, inserts about certain stuff that she said. After she took in the last baby, she said in many ways during most of these touring years, though I traveled over the world. I remained at the same place mentally that I've been in a day. Bob's driver arrived talking about an emergency. Every once in a while, when I was home, I'd say to Marsha and Judy, sorry, you girls can continue, but I'm thinking very much of getting out of this and leaving him alone. Because between tours, Marsha and her career and Judy and hers, but my life was still tied up in Bob's, and I felt unfulfilled and sometimes used. When I told him that I needed to really do something for myself, he was very supportive. I knew he felt sorry for me and knew what I was feeling and how I must be thinking. Bob was very honest with me. He even wrote a song for me to sing. Play, play, play. All you do is just play, play, play. Oh, he understood somewhat because he had a lot of dreams for me in terms of what he wanted me to be. If I complained sometimes about other baby mothers, he'd say, baby, you couldn't have all the babies that I feel I should have. I don't want you to get pregnant every year. So
Oh hell no, boy. Ooh, no ma'am. No ma'am, sir.
Girl, I told you Bob was a mother sucker, girl. So
Girl.
so some of that is really just taking the burden off of you and your body. This is what Bob is saying
Oh,
to
you see
Rita.
how he running his game. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
Girl, she said that was one of the lines, taking the burden off you because I know you have to work. He say, I know you want to work. I know you have to sing. Girl, I would have slapped the shit out of Bob.
Ooh. Oh,
Girl, that was
oh,
crazy. That was so crazy. I was like, this is
whatever.
child. This whole situation was ludicrous. You know, I to some degree now with him saying some of this stuff, I can see why Shantae is like, I don't give a fuck. She's stupid for staying.
Listen, it's a mess because you have to keep in mind he has 11 children, and they only had him and Rita only had 4 children together. She had 5 total, counting the one that she had prior to getting with Bob. So she had 4 children with him, and he has a total of 11.
Ridiculous.
And she was
Crazy.
married to him through all of this.
Girl,
So every
crazy.
child that was born was under their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. Ain't no motherfucking way, boy.
He was doing it for her benefit, Michelle,
Fuck out my face.
to
Okay?
preserve her body.
Fuck out of here. You ain't no, you're not preserving her body. You're actually doing the exact opposite because you fucking all these women and you keep coming back to her and
Yeah, that's
fucking
true.
on her. Like you ain't preserving no, you ain't even preserving your own body at this motherfucking point.
Ain't that
Yeah.
crazy?
That don't make no motherfuckers. Cause that's what I'm saying. Like all of this, 11 kids, y'all, 11, all underneath of this marriage, and only 4 of them are with his actual wife.
Yeah.
Damn. That's cold
Now,
blooded.
granted, they do count Rita's oldest child. I think her name is Stephanie. Yeah, her name is
Uh-huh.
Stephanie
Mm-hmm.
because the first boy, Stephen, however you pronounce it,
Mm-hmm.
um, was but they do count her as one of his children,
Yeah.
right? But 11 kids. That's it's still 6 kids missing.
Mm.
So he
And,
had 6 kids while married to Rita. 6 and 5
Yeah.
is 11, right?
and
Yeah.
he got 7 baby mamas.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's wild. That's wild.
That's
So he
crazy.
had 1 kid with every other woman, and then Rita.
Damn. Damn, Bob.
Preserving by listen. That's what I'm saying. I could not have been born back then because nope. John knew what he was doing when he made me be born in the '80s because ain't no motherfucking way. Ain't no way. They would have had to shun me from the community. I wouldn't have gave a fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
I definitely feel you. It's too much.
Yeah, and then the way money breaks down, because like so 20 American dollars is like 13 Jamaicans. Like no, 20 Jamaican dollars is 13 cents here in the U.S.
Oh, damn.
So that's the discrepancy in money.
Yeah.
So the money that they was making really wasn't shit. And it's just listen, nope. But listen, Bob would have been dead one way or the other because I would have wound up killing his ass fucking around with me.
That's what I said. The burning bed.
listen, listen, man. We would have had to make a pot of hot grits.
Girl. Ooh. Yeah, I said definitely she was a good one for sticking that out. Ain't no way in
Yeah.
hell I could. Ain't
Facts.
no way.
Rita is a very special type of woman. I don't
Yeah,
think I'll ever be that special. No, I know I ain't never gonna be that special or stupid. But
yeah. That's crazy. Well, you guys, we have completed chapters 6 through 10. I hope for all of the ones who started off reading with us and they read the first 3 chapters and they was like, "Oh no, it's not all that good," was able to get past the 3 chapters because that's where all of the tea started running over, honey. We are now going to go from chapters what 11
11 through the end of the book.
through the end of the book, 11 through chapters 15, you guys. And I'm already going to let you know it don't stop. It picks up even more. I'm already on chapter, I think I'm halfway through chapter 12.
Oh wow, you getting with it, girl.
Yeah, yeah, I've been reading it because it's been good, right? Because
Mhm.
let me just tell you, like it's still some more stuff that ends up going on, and this is when we start to find out that things with Bob health wise was not the greatest. But the way that they overlooked it, that was the problem for me. So that we get into, and then we get into that Rita and Bob both got shot. I didn't even know that Rita had got shot. I knew Bob got shot. But you get into that. So just to give y'all something to look forward to in the upcoming chapters, it's really going to get even worse than what it was in the other chapters, the 6 through 10. So, woo child. It's a lot. Also, you guys, for those of you who have not gotten the second book, make sure you get the book as well. Because we're going to after we read this book here, No Woman No Cry, we're gonna take a 1 week hiatus to give y'all some downtime. We just put in some work reading these chapters. And then we're going to come back to reading Dear Dead, which was by Kaimani Marley, the son who claims that he was the black sheep of the family, the one that didn't get any money and wasn't taken care of. We're going to read that book. So you guys, hopefully you have already gotten that, because if you're in the book club, we did make sure to give you the first 2 books that we were going to read up front. We're looking for ideas for a third book to read, you guys. If you are on the page or if you are on the group, we did put in there, like some, if you wanted to make some suggestions for a third book read. I think we got one in mind, but I can't remember what was the name of it. What was the name of the book that we was talking about, y'all?
I'm glad my mom is dead.
That was one of the books. Was it some other ones too?
Mm, Offhand, I can't think of them if there were.
Okay. All right. Well, most definitely we need to figure this out as well so that we could at least have that book already on deck. We are going to make sure that the book is on Audibles and is you're able to get it through what's the other one? Why I always forget the name. I'm gonna have to make myself a note of it. Um Shine, the one you got this book on. What you got it on?
Kindle.
Kindle. Thank you. I can't never remember Kindle. So we're all going to make sure that we are the book is available on Kindle and in on Audibles for our third read. For those who are not really able to, pick up the book and actually read it, then you can still participate. Also, you guys, if you're reading this book, we were supposed to have people join the panel. That's the whole purpose of discussing the book with everyone. Because if that's the case, me, Sean, and Michelle, we can read this book in private. And we can talk about it at VIP. You know what I'm saying? So we really would like to have people join us on the next coming book. if you're going to get the book, the Kaimani book, but definitely by the third book that we have, that if you're participating, because we got like 20 something members in the group, on the page. So, obviously you wanted to participate. That's one of the ways you can. And you can be able to come up and discuss, just like we discuss here, the books and read a few chapters out of the book as well. Okay.
Right.
All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
All
Makes sense.
right. Most definitely. Did we have anything else we wanted to add? Did I forget anything else before we leave for the day?
No, ma'am. That about covers it.
Yeah, I think that's how.
Okay, perfect. So we got all that together, and we thank you guys for joining us on this chapter 6 through 10, Rita Marley's book, No Woman, No Cry. And we hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday day, right?
Have
Have
a
a
good
good
day,
one, y'all.
y'all.
Have a good one, everyone. See y'all in the chat. Peace.